Hello, and thank you for attending the Responsible Trade Worldwide webcast this afternoon. During today's webcast, we'll be taking a look at staff turnover, offering insight and guidance on how to tackle the associated issues. Our webcast today will be presented by our General Manager, Robert Purse. Robert has extensive experience in HR and a keen interest in metrics. So it's at this point I'm going to hand over.
What labour turnover costs? The average cost of recruiting an employee in the UK is around £5,300, but this figure in itself is not particularly helpful. The actual cost can be as low as £1,500, but for a middle or senior manager it can easily be well in excess of £8,000. High rates of labour turnover are clearly expensive in terms of the actual costs of recruitment. But there are other, very significant issues that need to be considered. Lost production. Increased production costs, for example the use of overtime to cover staff shortages. The increased costs of training replacement employees. Loss of know-how and customer goodwill. Potential loss of sales, for example if there is high labour turnover amongst the sales force. Finally, damage that may be done to morale and productivity, which is an intangible but potentially significant cost. Combined with the costs of recruitment, all of these can have a major impact on the ability of your organisation to succeed in a highly competitive marketplace. So what is labour turnover? Labour turnover refers to the movement of employees into and out of a business. However, the term is commonly used to refer only to wastage, or the number of employees leaving. We advise that looking at it from the perspective of labour stability. High labour turnover causes problems for your business. It's costly, lowers productivity and morale, and tends to get much worse if it isn't dealt with promptly. Looking at measuring labour turnover. The simplest measure involves calculating the number of leavers in a period, usually a year, as a percentage of the average number of employees during the same period. This is what is known as the separation rate, or crude wastage rate, and is calculated as quite simply as follows. Number of leavers divided by average numbers employed multiplied by 100. So for example, if a business has 150 leavers during the year, and on average it employed 2,000 people during the year, the labour turnover figure would be 7.5%. An alternative and altogether more meaningful calculation of labour turnover is known as the stability index. This illustrates the extent to which the experienced workforce is being retained and is calculated as follows. Take the number of employees with one or more complete years of service now, the number employed 1 year ago, and multiply by 100. Labour turnover will vary between different groups of employees, and measurement is more useful if broken down by department, section or worksite, or according to such factors as length of service, age, gender or occupation. Patterns of labour turnover. The highest rate of labour turnover tends to be among those who have most recently joined a business. Longer serving employees are more likely to stay, mainly because they become used to the work and the business and have an established relationship with those around them. It is always good practice when somebody resigns to carry out an exit interview. Establishing the reason someone has decided to leave, which may not be the reason given in a resignation letter, can often provide useful information that may enable you to improve your employment brand. Looking now at causes of labour turnover. High levels of labour turnover can be caused by many factors, which include inadequate wage levels, leading to employees moving to competitors, poor morale and low levels of motivation within the workforce, recruiting and selecting the wrong employees in the first place, meaning they leave to seek more suitable employment, and a buoyant local labour market offering more and perhaps more attractive opportunities to employees. If your wage levels are competitive and you have good recruitment and selection procedures, but are still experiencing high levels of labour turnover, there may be serious underlying problems. Having good recruitment and selection practice is good commercial practice. By the time you add in costs such as employers' national insurance contributions, even a relatively junior employee can cost you £18,000 a year. If we assume that person is going to stay with you for 3 years, that means you're committing to an investment of approaching £55,000. If you were considering spending the same sum on an item of plant or equipment, would you take it seriously? Of course you would. At RTW, we strongly advise that your recruitment and selection practices are at least as stringent as your procurement practices. New employees do not come in with a 2-year parts and labour warranty, and they are high maintenance. So benefits of labour turnover, and yes, there are some benefits. Labour turnover does not just create costs. Some level of labour turnover is important to bring new ideas, new skills and enthusiasm to the labour force. A natural level of labour turnover can be a way in which a business can slowly reduce its workforce without having to resort to compulsory or voluntary redundancies. Managed labour turnover links directly with talent management, which, to use Jim Collins' analogy, is about getting the right people on the bus, the wrong people off the bus, and the right people in the right seats. So what's next? The next in our series of webcasts will be about organisational culture.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for that insight. As usual, it was really very interesting. Thank you all again for your time today, but before we go, just a recap of our upcoming webcast. As mentioned by Robert, we're looking at organisational culture on Thursday the 28th of February. We look forward to seeing you there. Thanks again for your time. Bye bye.